it's Alex and welcome back to my channel. So, a few months ago I set up all of my markers in this little bookshelf on my desk, and it's given me a lot of time to just kind of stare at my marker collection. And I realized that there's a bunch of them that I actually don't touch very often, so I've recently started challenging myself to a bunch of 3 marker challenges. And I've been taking those 3 marker challenges kind of above and beyond. I've had a lot of time since the whole stay-at-home order quarantine thing, and my girlfriend has also lent me her sketchbook. So this is the B Paper Company 9x9 versus the 9x12 sketchbook. And at first, honestly, the 9x12 sketchbook scared the bejesus out of me. Actually, just take a moment to admire my girlfriend's art in the front of the sketchbook here. A few days ago, when I was filming this actually, I'd started making a whole bunch of little mini sketches and seeing all the different ways that I could test out these colors, and I realized that when I do 3 marker challenges, I tend to regret my color choice, so I'm like, okay, maybe I should have done it this way, and doing this 9x12 inch spread of different ways to use these markers kind of helped placate some of my fears, because I actually did go through and test out this combination versus this combination. And the way that I've been doing it is usually the format is a bust, some sort of half body or full body image, and then a full illustration in the size of one of my Moleskine journals on the far side of the paper. One flaw of my organization system is you do have to pick between the reds, yellows, pinks, and grays level or the blues, greens, purples, and browns level. I've tried using a system of using a spreadsheet to pick the markers, and honestly, it's just not as fun. So I've stuck mostly to picking them out just by closing my eyes and feeling around. For the first sketch, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do going in, and it just kind of developed into this cute magical boy. The snakes were also a fun choice. In the original little thumbnail I did at the very top, I only had one snake, and I'm very glad I put the one across his shoulders as well. One problem of how I laid out the color swatches was it got in the way of where I wanted the magical orb up there. One thing I've been trying to do with these spreads is I go through and I do all of the line art for the non-complete piece all at once. So that way I can test out all of the different color choices at the same time, and I'm not blocked into making illustrations for a different color choice later on. Like, if I did all of the coloring for one section of the spread and then was like, oh, I want to orient a piece specifically for making this version of the color, like this orientation of colors, I feel like it would kind of pigeonhole me. The point of the 3 color challenges is to open your mind to a few different possibilities. So throughout this entire page, I was definitely feeling a lot of fantasy inspiration, because as soon as I finished the magical boy, I drew this bust of an elf woman, and then I used some potions to fill out the remaining white space of the page. That's kind of more what I've been trying to do with these big spreads. I guess I could just do a few doodles on each page, but I'm trying to interconnect everything to actually fill out a full page. There's other pieces in this sketchbook that I haven't quite filled out a full page of yet, and it just feels like a waste of the paper, you know? And I also never draw freestanding items. I think on the left side of this page, my favorite item is actually the jar of jam that I drew in the bottom left corner. The skull jar is also pretty cool, but I did kind of mess up the line art of that one, so definitely takes it down a notch. These 3 color challenges definitely A, pull you out of your comfort zone, B, they make you use colors in a way that you're not typically using them, and C, it helps you practice in making things balanced. These 3 markers are all particularly dark, and also B34 and RV95 are actually 2 markers that I grab for a lot. RV95 is typically the color I use for shading in cheeks, like the darker specks of blushing, and B34 is the color that I usually grab for denims, and that's another common eye color I use. So it was interesting trying to switch around my usages of it. I sort of wish I would have gone into the Magical Boys piece and done pink for his skin, because I later on didn't want to use pink for the skin of anyone else, because I was like, I drew one boy over here and two girls, and of course I used blue skin on the boy, and now I'd use pink skin on the girl. That just feels very safe. One thing that I absolutely love about this set of markers is how they layer. I layered the RV95 and the B34 quite a lot. You can see it in the pants, and you'll see it on the bigger illustration skin later. So for this big piece on the side, I had a bunch of people on my Instagram send me in suggestions of prompt words. I've been doing prompt word challenges on the far side of the page, and for this one, my prompt word was canine. I had a few thumbnails of ideas. You can kind of see them in the top left corner there. One is like a furry girl playing a guitar, because I've been listening to a lot of KK Slider music. The next one down is a girl with a dog just in her lap. And then the third one, the one that I ended up going with, is a girl who's kind of like walking through a garden of hedges. And in the original piece, there's a dog at her feet that's like barking at a bush. But when I was starting to actually work on the line art, I had an idea for like, maybe this mage girl is lost in this hedge maze. This mage girl is lost in this hedge maze, wow, and she has this kind of like smaller dog familiar with her, and then there's this demon dog that comes up and starts bothering them, and she doesn't know whether or not its intent is to hurt them or play with them, and that's kind of like the extent of the story so far. I actually really like this character design. I might come back to her. I really like the puppy. The puppy is actually based off of a concept art that I made for a video game team that I'm working with, and here's the original concept of Auburn that I kind of based this weird tiger dog in her arms off of. The other dog is just my typical greyhound-based demon dog. And I don't know why I went with a whole bunch of eyes. I've really been liking iconography. I'm sorry. I've really been liking putting eyes in a lot of my designs. I usually go for like just a whole bunch of multiple pairs of eyes on the face, but I really like the trail of eyes going down the back of the dog's head. One thing that this set of challenges has really taught me is just how much hemming and hawing I do. Usually in the left side of the page, I'll be a little bit quicker about it. And then when it comes to the actual full composition, there's a lot of sketching, erasing, and yes, it's for the better, but I think I need to get a little bit better at sketching out my idea beforehand and then sticking with it instead of changing every time. To preface the entire sketching portion of the first piece in this spread, my colors that I picked are RV95, B34, and B26. To preface the entire sketching portion of the first piece in this spread, my colors that I picked are RV95, B34, and B26. And this is the point where I realized that the girl character was going to have pink skin, whereas the boy character was going to have blue skin. So I decided to change it up and make her a lot darker, which in turn meant that I had to make everything else around her darker. I think the one flaw with picking dark colors for your markers is you have to push the darks a lot more. In the main area of her skin, there are 3 layers, 2 of the pink and 1 of the blue. Of course, that means that the clothes have to be a different level of contrast. And even the lightest color in this set wasn't very light at all. For these hedges around her, because I wanted her to have a dark blue cloak as well, I needed to push the value for that even more. And this was the point where I was really hesitant to add in grays on top of the 3 colors that I already had. Since then, I've just kind of accepted that sometimes I will have to pull in grays. There was a set of 3 really light markers that I had to bring grays on in another piece, and it ended up being really cool. If I were to do this a whole lot more with the same set of markers, I would straight up kill the marker. In order to get the hedges the exact tone of blue that I wanted, it took 4 layers with 1 marker, which is not, it's not efficient. I have to be exactly as careful about getting over the edges as I did the first time I passed over it. It's not healthy for the marker. It'll definitely run you out of the ink in a shorter period of time. That's why I didn't use more pink in these illustrations. I am very concerned about this marker dying because I have had it for over a year and a half now, and it is one of the markers that comes with me wherever I go. It is my go-to dark blush marker. So, and it kind of sucks that that's my go-to blush marker since it's kind of a purpley pink, but like, it does the job, especially when layered with R20 blush. I did, at the time, believe I was cheating a little bit by bringing in the black for the dog, but I really think the contrast was good for it. Especially since I left the little Pomsky tiger dog in her arms all white except for some blue shadowing. I did also bring in the colorless blender marker, and I'm really glad that I put a bleed paper in between this page and the next illustration. With the B Paper Company mixed media paper, I've never had a problem with bleeding when I don't use an excessive amount of layers. Even in the areas that I did the 4 layers for the hedge maze, I had no bleeding issues, but the area where I used the colorless blender on the Pomsky's tail, I had a little spot of bleed through. On the next page, it wouldn't have been too bad considering the area it was in was going to be covered over by R89 dark red. It's still better to be safe than sorry. I also decided that the dog was not standing out enough in the bottom, so I decided to add a little bit more of a magical aura around them. In the original little thumbnail I did at the very top, I only had 1 snake, and I'm very glad I put the one across his shoulders as well. One problem of how I laid out the color swatches was it got in the way of where I wanted the staff to be, so I just kind of incorporated it into the staff and made that the main colors of the I'm really hoping one of these days to do another live recording of audio, and by that I mean like I did during Inktober. Some of the days I recorded the audio as I was actually making the piece. However, of course, since Jess is currently home and all of her classes are online, she is also in the studio, and I feel bad talking at the exact same time that she's working on stuff. Usually she's in headphones, but nonetheless she'll occasionally, when I'm filming and talking to myself, just perk up and is like, no, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the camera, and I feel bad. And also it's just kind of awkward to be talking at myself and at the camera when there's also another person sitting in the room. It's something that I'm going to have to get used to. Not to mention, my neighbor has taken to blasting his bass in his music, and I can't record over it. something I've brought back in from my previous art style. I used to do these 3 dots along the cheeks, and I've kind of brought that back. And once I had the white pen out, I realized she kind of needed teeth. I was just kind of missing something there. I didn't like the gaping smile without teeth at the top of her mouth. So I added that back in. And here's the only speck of bleed through from the colorless blender, and we're done. I've done 7 pages like this so far, and I can flash them all up here right now, including this one. This is essentially how I've been getting through quarantine. I absolutely suggest it if you guys have troubles with picking out your colors, or if you just want to push yourself a little bit more. It's definitely an interesting method. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys give this a try yourselves. Especially with having it all be on one page where you can look at all of the different combinations in one go. If you'd feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and check me out on my other social media handles. Thanks, and I'll see you all in the next one.